River City Podcast Federation.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sara Jones. This is another one of our minisodes where I get the chance to talk to you about your ghost stories and paranormal experiences. So here's how this works. Listeners send in ghost stories to our email address, litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. My manager reads the ghost story submissions and decides which stories she thinks will work best for the show. The only information I get from her is a name, a date, a time, and a phone number to call. So when I hear these stories, I truly am hearing them for the first time. I have no idea what to expect. This minisode is a particularly special call. I spoke to a guy named Doug about a couple of paranormal experiences that he had. As we talked, we began to speak more about a cause that is very close to my heart. I feel obligated to mention that in this call, we address mental health issues and suicide in a very serious, open, and honestly, loving way. This is something that affects all of us. Here's the call.
Hello?
Hi, is this Doug?
Yes.
Hi, Doug. This is Sara Jones from Laughing in the Dark. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. So I heard you have a ghost story for me. Is that true?
Yeah. I know you got the title of the email. I don't know if it's okay to mention that other part.
I don't know anything about your story. So like what we do is my manager reads all the stories so that I hear it for the first time on the air.
Okay.
But before we get started, do you want to tell listeners your name and something about yourself? Just introduce yourself.
My name is Douglas. I'll try and keep this kind of brief. I was born and raised, I was born in Sassoon, California, moved around to Oregon and the Bay Area, California a lot. Now I live in California. I'm 31 years old. About a year ago, I started doing photography, so I really love photography. I've always been an artistic type of person.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. What kinds of things do you like to take pictures of?
I really like working with people. I really love doing portraits.
Cool.
I like capturing candid shots, those unexpected moments.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just seems more real and natural.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's walk me through your ghost story. Where does it take place?
I'm not sure if you've heard of a small town called Nevada City. It's actually in California.
I have not.
It's about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes north of Sacramento. But I was out there, and I was at my uncle's house, and it was just me and my friend that were there. My uncle was at work that day, and I was, everything was fine. Everything was normal, and I had seen someone out the corner of my eye walk out of my uncle's room. So I went outside, and I was thinking to myself, there's no one else here, just me and my friend. So I was thinking to myself, that I would go follow this person and see who they were. I followed them outside, and I followed them outside, and when I got to the door was open because it was hot that day, and I looked outside, and there was no one there, and this was on a 6-acre lot, so they couldn't have ran or driven that far that quick, and So I came back inside and I was just standing there, and my friend was like, "Are you okay? What happened?" And I told him, I was like, "I think I just saw my aunt." And then it turns out that the room she was walking out of that day was actually the room that she passed away in.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and a lot of people say apparitions seem blurry, but it seemed like very real to me.
Like it just looked like a person.
Yeah.
But you recognized it as your aunt?
Oh, yeah, and she wasn't even trying to hide or anything like that. It's like she wasn't trying to hide, but she also wasn't trying to say, "Hey, look at me." She was just acting like she always did, just normal.
Huh. That's awesome. Were you close to your aunt?
Not really. We had a lot of disagreements when I was growing up because I wasn't the perfect kid.
Yeah,
I got into trouble at school a lot.
Yeah. So were you the only person who saw her apparition?
Yeah, at that time. I haven't seen her any other times, but I don't know if other family members have seen her.
How long ago was that?
This was about, I'd say, 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how long ago did she pass away?
I want to say about 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Have you encountered any other ghosts before?
Nothing like that. I mean, I've seen orbs and stuff before. Like, literally seen orbs with, like, intricate details. This had only happened once. I saw, like, 2 orbs. One of them was, like, a dark orb. The other one was really bright. And, I was going through a rough time in my life, and, those 2 orbs were, like, circling around each other, and then they just flew off.
Where did you see them?
I was actually laying in my bed one night, not having very good thoughts, and I'd seen those 2 orbs, and I kind of looked at it as like dark and light trying to fight for each other or something.
And it was in your bedroom?
Yeah.
How far away were they from you?
2 or 3 feet.
Oh, wow. So they're really... How big were they?
One of them, the bright one was about the size of my thumbnail. The dark one was about the size of my pinky nail.
Oh, so they're pretty small. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I lost you.
Oh,
I was going to say, because I've never seen an orb before, but I guess I pictured them being a little bit bigger than that or something for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like orbs and dust that show up in photos before, but I mean, these 2 orbs were like interacting with each other. It was, I'm pretty sure it was more than just dirt.
Yeah, especially when it's not in a photograph. It's something you're seeing in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So how did you feel about seeing your aunt? Did you tell your uncle about that?
I didn't tell my uncle because he's a pretty emotional person. Like, he's real sensitive. He's just got a heart of gold.
Oh.
Like, he's special needs, so I didn't want to like freak him out or anything like that. But I've told a couple other family members, my mom and dad, and a couple friends.
And how did they react to hearing about that?
My mom believed me, but my dad tried to convince me that it wasn't real, but I saw it.
Yeah.
And I'd always been skeptical. Like, I had always wanted to see something, and at the same time, I had always been like, oh, that's not real. I would have seen it by now if it was.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the people who have actually seen a spirit compared to like a lot of people that have seen something really are skeptical too. I'm the same way. I've seen a ghost before, and I still like I watch ghost hunting shows, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, this is BS, you know? And I'm always skeptical of stuff. Yeah, me too. But I believe that it exists. I just believe a lot of people kind of like, you know, bullshit it. That's the thing. Like, I'm just so curious about it. That's why I like, you know, doing these interviews and phone calls. And it's funny because I tell, you know, like when I'm trying to get my friends to call in and tell their ghost stories, I'm like, hey, don't lie though. Like, don't make it up, because I will ask a lot of questions, not because I'm trying to catch you on your lie, but just because I'm curious. So if you're lying, it'll come out, you know? Yeah. It seems like you're kind of similar in that same way.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Oh, well, I don't know. I guess, you said you've never had another, paranormal experience like this?
Just the one with my aunt and then those two orbs. I guess it would, about the two orbs, it would help to say that, I'd actually done an intentional overdose that night.
Oh, no.
And like I felt myself slipping into a coma, and I was like, this is it. I can finally escape. And I was laying in bed for 5 hours watching these orbs. Like they would come and go. Yeah. Those are the only two experiences that I can recall that I actually thought were real.
So, and when you were watching them, you knew for sure. I mean, did you just have like this feeling that those were like people or spirits, like angel and demon, or like what was the impression?
I got the impression that they were angel and demon because, like, I want to say I saw the dark one show up first, but I can't remember for sure. But one of them was dark and the other was really bright. And there's just like this inner feeling, not just by appearance, but just this inner feeling like, okay, this is good and evil battling over my life. Over
it felt like it involved you.
Yeah.
Do you think that seeing that interaction helped you come out of it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like it saved your life?
Well, I had, I was starting to fade away, and then I sent a text to my mom, and then she had come over, and so she called 911, and so I made it to the hospital in time.
Oh, well, that's great. But do you think seeing that interaction helped save you emotionally from wanting to end your life?
Yeah, definitely. That was the main turning point of my decision.
And what about that interaction helped you? If I can ask. If it's too personal, I understand.
I'm not really sure how to put it into words. Just seeing like something that I had never seen before. Like, I don't know, maybe just seeing something that I didn't even know. Like, obviously having something to do with me, something cared about me. So I figured seeing something like that, there's got to be a reason why I should live.
I'm so glad that you had that experience. And that's such an interesting thing to bring to the table, you know, to bring the discussion to mental health and depression, which is not where I thought this conversation would go, but it's so important to talk about. There are so many things that people say that kind of get so cliche, you know, when it's like, you have so much to live for and so many people love you. But there's also that side of the unknown of what lies beyond this life, you know, and you can look at that in different ways. But in your case, it almost seems like you realized that not only do people here love you and care about you, like your mom who came and helped you, But there are people on the other side, or angels, entities that you don't even know, that are looking out for you and caring for you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it.
That is such an eye-opening experience to have.
Yeah, definitely. I see that whole experience as a gift.
Mm-hmm. How long ago was that?
I can't really remember. I don't know if it was before or after I saw the apparition of my aunt. It's hard to remember.
I mean, the overdose.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really remember when. I want to say like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I can't really remember.
It's kind of like a blurry time in your life. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But ever since then, has that, I mean, do you think back on that and that kind of helps you in rough patches?
Every now and then I do.
Yeah. Have you incorporated that in any of your photography?
No, not yet. I haven't really figured out how.
Mm-hmm. That seems like it would be kind of a cool series to do. Like a light and dark, inspired by your life-saving and altering experience.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would.
And also, I think hearing that too is comforting for people that have lost loved ones, to think that, you like to think there's this idea that when you die, people that you love that are on the other side are there for you, waiting for you. And it seems like you almost got a glimpse into that.
Yeah.
To see that there are these spirits that have your back, and also to see that there are some spirits that are not very good,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Are you a religious person?
I've studied like a lot of religions, but actually now, I'm more of a spiritual type of person, not necessarily religious.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that this experience probably really reinforced your spiritual beliefs, if not altering them entirely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I know that's a personal thing to share.
Yeah, don't tell too many people about it because, a lot of people are not used to hearing things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think talking about mental health and depression and suicide is extremely important because I think talking about it really helps to alleviate the stigma,
Yeah.
And when it comes to things like suicide, there's all kinds of causes to help prevent suicide, but the truth of the matter is you can't prevent suicide. If someone wants to commit suicide, they're going to do it. The best thing you can do is talk about it to help eliminate the stigma, because I think that is probably the hardest hurdle to overcome for that cause. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like
definitely.
A huge symptom of depression and suicidality is that feeling of being alone and isolated and weird and like something is wrong with you. And that's because of how strong the stigma is.
Yeah.
I lost my dad to suicide almost a year ago.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it's thank you. But that's why I feel so strongly about this, because that was kind of the first thing I thought of was, I actually told my boss, obviously, because I had to take like bereavement leave and all of that. And my boss said to me, she goes, well, do you mind if I tell some of the coworkers why you're going to be out? Like, I won't tell them how your dad died, obviously, but do you mind if I tell them? And I kind of thought about it and I said, no, you can tell them how he died. That's how his story ends, It doesn't have to be shameful. It doesn't have to be a 4-letter word. you know?
Yeah.
But my dad was on the board of the Mental Health Foundation, and he did a walk every year called Stomp Out Stigma.
Okay.
And
That sounds interesting.
What's that?
It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so he was very active and proactive in mental health, and he still, unfortunately lost his battle with depression. And it's, I don't think it's of any weakness of his or anyone's who ends up in that position. I just think that we need to understand it better and form conversations around it better. How have you been since that incident?
I've come a long way. I'm not, I don't know what the word is. I'm not as depressed anymore.
Mm-hmm. You don't feel like at risk for suicide anymore?
No.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you had that experience to help you. And I think sharing that with people should be helpful to other people that are feeling maybe in a similar boat,
Yeah.
I'm like hearing this sound. Are you like hitting your phone or something?
Oh, no. I just got Starbucks. I'm trying to stir the bottom of it.
Oh, nice. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories with me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm glad I was able to do this.
Yeah.
I hope it helps a lot of people.
Me too. I had no idea it would go in this direction, but I think that it's important to share and to talk about those things, and hopefully, if anything, to at least show people that like you're not alone. It's actually very normal to feel that way and very typical. It's just unfortunately not normal yet for people to talk about it and be open about it. And I think that that's the most healing. You've been there. What do you think is most helpful?
For me, I would say like music that has to do with suicide, because it lets you know in a very intense way that you're not the only one going through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's a way of communicating that feeling and relating to it. I think that that's so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, should we end on a positive note? What are you looking forward to this week?
I'm actually doing a photo shoot tomorrow with a Rasta. It's going to mainly be about dreadlocks.
Oh, that's fun.
And, I love photography. I'll sit there and geek out on it.
Do you have a website for your photography?
I'm on Facebook. Is it okay if I say the name?
Yeah, I was going to say we can plug your business on the show.
Okay. Facebook, Doug, D-O-U-G, Striken. That's STREICHAN. And photography.
So that's STREICHAN?
Yeah, Doug Striken Photography.
Got it. Okay, Doug. Well, we will check out your artwork for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to really think hard about how I want to frame our episode, because I honestly did not expect it to go like this at all. But
neither did I.
I know, but I really want to thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for your stories. I'm so glad you're doing better. And it was really nice to meet you and talk to you, Doug.
It was nice talking with you as well.
Okay, you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Like I said, I had no idea the conversation was going to go in that direction, but I'm so glad that it did. We need to be open about mental health and suicide awareness. There are many ways to cope when we're feeling that way. Please reach out, call a friend, listen to music, work on an art project, take a bath. Explore your coping mechanisms and find what works best for you when you're feeling vulnerable. And please remember that you are not alone. One resource available 24 hours every single day is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can call them at 1-800-273-8255. There's even an online chat option if you don't feel like calling in. If you'd rather send a text message, you can find free help in the United States from the Crisis Text Line. Just text the word CONNECT, CONNECT, to 741-741 for free help when you need it the most. That's 6 digits, 741-741. Just text the word CONNECT. If you'd like, please be sure to check out Doug's photography on Facebook. You can find him by searching his name, Doug Streichen, on Facebook. Streichen is spelled Streichen. If you have a ghost story that you want to share on the show, we would love to hear from you. Please email your stories to litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. That's litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Take care, and remember, be nice to you.
River City Podcast Federation.